Hello and welcome to the Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guest today is
Louise Nulty, the Studio Project Manager.
Hey Louise, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, Tar. Thank you. How are you?
I'm alright, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Good.
How are you doing in the lockdown, and do you have any advice for people?
I think now it's kind of difficult. I find this the hardest part. Like lockdown, when it first happened, it was quite clear that it was lockdown, and it felt kind of just easier to make decisions because you knew that you can't do this and you can't do that. Whereas now I find it quite difficult to make those decisions quicker, to know what the rules are because they change in daily. And to sort of, when I see things happening, events happening or whatever, I think, oh, is that right? Should that be happening? Oh, should we do that? Oh dear. And really the advice for people at this stage of things would be to just slow down.
No, I think that's right what you were saying though, because it is where we are now, it's more of a grey what's allowed and what's not allowed section of the lockdown. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard to cope with it. I think nowadays, like at first, just like, you can't go out, so just stay in.
Yeah.
That was a lot more simpler.
Now it's you can go out, but stay in.
Yeah, you can go out, but on your own. And you knew, it's like, everyone was clear, weren't we? And everyone was quite respectful and stuff. And now, I don't know, you kind of get the feeling that some people are just going, making other people feel foolish for continuing with the rules. But I think it hasn't gone. It's not gone away. I do believe it was here, and it still is. And, yes, I believe that we should be together and support each other, and that humans need that. Of course, that's everything we do at the studio. But I also think, we have to really think about those things and doing the things that really will benefit rather than just kind of going back into just do everything. I just think you've got to really take the time now and maybe slowing down. Maybe I want to slow down because I'm a bit older as well. Maybe that's it. That's just happened at the same time. But yeah, I just think let's really think a little bit more about things, and if people want to do that and people want to still be cautious, nobody should make them feel bad for that.
No, definitely not.
Cool. So how did you get involved in the studio?
The studio has always been in my life, really. I used to perform shows when I was in minimum wage theatre company 100 years ago, it seemed like, in the very, very late 80s, early 90s. And so I'd done plays and stuff there, and must have gone to loads of other stuff, seen loads of gigs. Used to go to gigs every week probably there in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was always a big sort of part of my life. The first sort of instance of me getting involved in the way that I am now, there was something happening at the studio, and they needed somebody to step in to chair a meeting, just to be an outside body sort of thing. And because my background was arts, predominantly drama, obviously, and I'd worked at the Brindley and run the youth theatre at the Queen's Hall when that was there. So, I was kind of known in the area for kind of arts management and stuff, project management. And so I came in and did that. And then it just sort of escalated really from there of, the position became available, and I went for it and got it. And, that's 8 years ago now, this month, 8 years ago in August.
Oh, wow.
5th of August, yeah. First gig, James Swift was my first gig.
Oh, yeah, because you introduced me, didn't you?
Yeah.
I remember when I wrote the thing and I said the woman introduced me, and I was like, maybe I should say Louise.
Yes, got it right.
So what originally got you involved in acting?
Tricky one, really. I just liked it at school. Just when it came to leaving school, it was like, what's your favourite subjects? You may as well do them. Yeah, they were English and drama, so that's what I did. But I think, at school, I'd done a lot of dance and gymnastics. I was more into that rather than drama. I hadn't sort of acted in any of the shows at school. I'd always danced in them because I don't know. I always thought acting was for other people, or it was for the clever kids or the poshos. I don't know what the poshos were they. Don't know. But I didn't think it was for me anyway. And you know, I sort of kind of let other people get on with it. I was quite happy doing the dance side of things. But then, so my dog's joined me now. Hello. I was about 16 and was at college doing theatre studies in English. And then my tutor at the time asked me to be in a play that she was directing. And I said, yes, please. And I did that. And then that was kind of it then. I think starting to, I think Keith was in it as well, so you know it goes, you know, go quite far back with a lot of people. Dog, sorry, dog. Hello, go back quite a way with lots of people who's still at the studio now. You know, heavy breathing. It's not me. I think from that moment on, I sort of knew that I wanted to perform then because, you know, it was proper play, it was a proper cast, it was proper, you know, venues and things like that. But potentially it might stem from when I won some tickets to see Cinderella in Liverpool, somewhere like the Empire, somewhere like that, when I did a colouring competition in the World or Weekly News, one of them free newspapers, and won tickets. And I remember going to the pantomime and crying all the way through it because I thought it was marvellous. I think I was about 7. I also won some 6 cream eggs as well. But so I think it may have been that moment combined with being 16 and someone asking you to do something. And I think that's always stuck with me. You know, people, it's not always the obvious people who want to do things. Sometimes you've got to look beyond the ones shouting loudest, you know.
Have you ever done pantomime?
Not professionally, no. I've done it as a younger person with minimum wage. I do hope to play a wicked queen, a wicked stepmother one day. I think it's what I'm born for.
I was gonna ask, like, when you was watching the pantomime, did a part of you think I could do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think it did. I don't think I did back then. I think it was more, I just sort of thought, this is amazing. Yeah, what is this? I don't even know. But it's not really my favourite thing either, panto. There's not really a thing that I go and see anything.
That's why I asked, because I don't think I've ever heard you say about pantomime, if that makes sense.
No, it's not really my bag, but I mean, appreciate the skill that goes into it and everything, but it's not really kind of where I sit. I'm kind of more interested in the, you know, script and the story and all that kind of thing, and the telling of sort of intricate details of people's lives and things like that, and smaller scale, more intimate theatre. I'm more into that. But that's just evolved, you know, that's just a taste thing that's evolved from watching a lot of theatre and being in it. But, you know, one of my favourite jobs was being in a children's show at Christmas. So that's kind of similar. So, yeah.
What interests you about directing?
I think creating the whole world that the play or the show has, you know, being able to kind of have a vision for it and fit things into it and allow people to create things. I'm not really a director that makes the mind up beforehand and says, right, this is how the play's going to go, this is how your character's going to be, this is where you're going to stand. I tend to evolve that with the actors and see what they've got and then go, does that fit the overall vision, or can we go down a different road for this? I think it is creating that whole world and taking the responsibility. You know, I don't mind that. It's fine. Kind of, a lot of people don't like that side of things, but I just think it's just decision making, and it's all right. I always think this is what we've created at this moment under the circumstances that we're in, and as long as you accept all those things and you work as hard as you can, that's it, isn't it? Someone won't like it, somebody will. But I think the experience of the participants, all of them, whether it's tech or cast or whatever, has to be positive, has to be good. And it doesn't mean it's not always going to be easy. It sometimes will be difficult, you know. It has, and hard work, but it has to be enjoyable. You have to get that kind of, that was a thing we created kind of vibe from stuff, you know, being something part of a unique thing that only happened at this moment and then disappeared, poof, forever.
Was directing and acting a similar, like, did they appear at the same time, or did one happen and the other?
I did a little bit of directing at drama school because we had to. It was like just part of a module that you had to do, and at the time people were saying to me, oh, you should direct, and I was like, again, it's that thing of going, no, other people direct, I'm just an actor, what are you talking about? And it didn't really occur to me that that was a skill that I had or anything. And I suppose my first directing projects were for youth theatres, because I started running Warrington Youth Theatre in about 1997 or something like that, and then I ended up running a couple of youth theatres in Halton, and so you got to direct shows. Well, I did anyway. That's what I like to do. So yeah, I think it kind of developed through that. So it came second, really. But actually, I do often think that it takes over the acting. But then I go, oh no, I'm not quite ready to give up acting yet. So I do like them both equally. But it's difficult to find work as an actor, hugely difficult. But it's, I think, even harder as a director. And
So, yeah.
I just kind of think having both of them, one might lead to the other, or one might disappear, the other one might present itself. They're just two things. I don't see that I have to make a choice, really.
Do you find it difficult when you're directing projects at the studio, like with Metronomes and stuff like that?
No, I mean, it's difficult sometimes to go from one job to another, isn't it? To be, managing, and we do that a lot. We all do that. We all flip from 1 minute we're making tea and toast, and the next minute we're running a meeting, or what I mean. It's
Definitely.
And I quite like the fact that, but sometimes it's hard to flip your head into it. But I don't know, at the studio, it's been great because, again, when you've got people who want to be there, who want to be part of the project, then that's the easy part. When you've got people who don't want to be there, it's really difficult. Exactly. So actually, the people often make it easier, and their enthusiasm and their ideas. I think I do work best with other people. And that's kind of why I think I've never gone into sort of writing or something like that. It's quite a solitary task, because I'm much better if someone says 3 things. By the end of saying 3 things, I'll have created a show with those 3 things. And, and that's one of the things I have to watch, that I have to, whenever I'm part of a meeting, or especially I've found like on Zoom or the socials, I have to really control myself to not create a project out of just a throwaway comment that somebody has. So, I do know that's a bit of an issue, but that's kind of part of the thing. So at the studio, it's been great doing Metronomes, having people wanting to come forward, do improvised stuff.
It's the same with like the radio plays as well, where you need a director for that. I think it's one thing having something written, but then you need someone to say that line in a certain way.
Well, that's it. It's just having that ear or that eye on something that says, just a tiny tweak here or there will make such a difference. And, as a director, I don't think I have just one style. I try to listen to how, and I suppose I do this at the studio as well. You have to listen to how someone operates and try and work out what would be the best way to work with them. So, I'm certainly not a director that shouts or
no.
That demands things of people, because I wouldn't enjoy that. Why would I do that to anybody else? But I know a lot of people think that's what a director does. Is it heck? If anybody does that, it's outrageous. There's no need for it. We can all, we can all lose it. I mean, I always remember an incident when I was directing a youth theatre piece, and I got totally frustrated. I was like on my own. It was a load of kids. It was getting really difficult, and I was kind of going, no, come on, put this down. And one of the mums who was chaperoning said, you don't need to do this. Stop, and it was like, she was absolutely right. And I never forget that. I'm not beyond being told that some behaviour is wrong, and we all must sort of check ourselves, I think. Why are we getting like this? What effect is it having on that person? What effect is it having on me? So if you can try and avoid that in the first place, then that's all the better. But it kind of comes from understanding the circumstances with which you're working. And if you're working in a difficult set of circumstances, you have to ask why, and whether you've created them or whether someone else has created them, and whether somebody can help you. Always learning to share the load in projects, whether that's theatre or whatever, is a really important thing as well. Delegating to you two usually, and Meg and Steve. It's a joy.
What advice would you give to younger people who want to pursue acting and also directing?
I think it's very difficult at the minute. Normally, the usual thing for anybody sort of my age, I've been in the business, as they say, 25 years this year. Is to usually say, if there's anything else you can do and want to do that. don't do this. I would never stop anybody from doing it, but I'd say, well, you know, I would usually say you have to really want to do it. It has to be something that you can't stop. You know, that you actually think, oh, well, it doesn't matter whether someone's telling me to stop, I can't stop, it's impossible. And that's probably all art forms as well. But, you know, if people just fancy a little go at it, I suppose it's all right. I find that quite difficult because I think, no, I knew I wanted to do it. I did 3 years at drama school and I knew I wanted to be an actor at the end of that, you know. And so it baffles me why anybody would give 3 years of their life for something they didn't really know they wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
But I suppose that's a way of finding it out, isn't it? You know, it's a way of finding it out. It is very much, as they say, it's not what you know, who you know. And I found that I've been on the receiving end of that, in the right place at the right time. But how you get round that is by being ready to say yes to things. Definitely, and also knowing when to say no as well. You know, again, it's about weighing up every situation. There's a lot of jobs out there for actors that are unpaid, which is not great. There's a lot of jobs for directors that are unpaid. But I've actually only done one unpaid directing job, which I did in lockdown, because I thought, oh, well, let's do it, because I might never do it again, or this is an unusual setup, you know, directing someone over Zoom. And I'm glad I did it. We got a good piece at the end of it, a piece of Shakespeare that a woman performed, and that was really good. I'm glad I did it. And I've done like jobs where they've been what they'll call like a fringe rate, where it's quite a small amount of money, but then doing that led to me then getting a job on Emmerdale, so somebody came to see it. So, you know, you've got to weigh it up. If it's right for you at that time, great, go for it, but don't expect anything from it. Know the value of what it is that you're doing. You know, you can't kind of go, oh well, but I've done this and therefore this should have happened. No, it's not a straightforward, it's not an upward trajectory. I would say it's side to side. Here's a job, do you want it? Will you enjoy it? Will you get something out of it? Or will it be detrimental for you? If not, and you can get something out of it, good. You know, and then there might be another job and it just goes side to side to side to side, and you just have to look at everything at its own merits. I think you have to be careful not to fall into the trap of doing too many fringe shows. But at the minute, there's none anyway. You know, there's a lot of stuff online, and that's it, keeping people's well-being and mental health kind of in check as well. So,
what would you say are the key elements in being a project manager at the studio? Probably
flexibility, being able to create something out of nothing, being able to listen to the needs of people and listen for those little nuggets of ideas that someone might not be able to make happen, but you can. You know, people say things like managing venues and stuff like that is a bit plate spinning. It is, but that's kind of part of the joy of it, that there's so much variety and you go from one thing to another. But I think with us, what Luce wants to do, you know, removing the barriers to the arts and cultural activity, and, you know, providing a place where people can come with their own ideas. You know, it's just remembering that and, you know, telling yourself that's what the purpose is, knowing the purpose of it, rather than making it about what you want at the time. You know, it's about listening to people and, you know, kind of always be ready to go, that didn't work, let's try something else, you know. So, yeah, so I think flexibility is one of the greatest things you need, really. Being diplomatic, having some patience, just seeing everybody as an individual, really, and knowing that their time at the studio, you know, should be a positive one for them, and also then kind of looking out for the people and why they come, and, you know, just kind of trying to be a little bit in tune with people as well, and, you know, sense of why they're there, what they're there for.
We've got, like, in nearly every single episode, we have someone who goes, and I wouldn't be able to do this without Lou, and I always think, like, I actually said this in Mike's episode the other day, where I often wonder, like, how many times a day you get, can I do this, or is this okay if we do this? Or I mean, I do it all the time where I'm like, but yeah.
But isn't it great? You know, I'm very lucky that the people will do that. You know, that is the whole point. You know, and you know what I'm like, I will fill a gap if there's a gap. I will start talking or creating something. So, you know, for me, I have to try and stop that and allow people to have room And so it's great when people do come. I love it. That is one of the things I do love about it, is that somebody might go, I've had this idea, you might think it's ridiculous, and then you can kind of go, yeah, that fits what we're trying to do, that will be of benefit for you and other people, let's try and do it. And that's great. That's the greatest thing, I think, about one of the greatest things about the job, definitely. Is that responding to others.
Yeah, there's definitely a level of approachability where you need to be able to have people know that it's okay to come up to you and say, I've had an idea.
Yeah, and I think as long as people do that, there'll be a place for the studio and for Luce to operate. That. And, we especially saying that at the minute, that now, as much as it's a very difficult situation, because the funding has become more available and people are understanding what we need as humans, it's the best time to come forward with ideas. Let's have some brilliant ideas. I hate it when I've not got an idea and I think, oh, why have I not got a brilliant idea? It's really frustrating. But actually, it's about other people and letting their ideas come forward, and together we make something that we couldn't have done on our own. And that's a great thing as well, that we can all walk a certain path, but if you let someone else walk with you, the path will be different, won't it? It's very it's much better to be with people, and than to sort of plough ahead on your own, I think.
So with that in mind, what are your best memories being at the studio, being project manager?
It's hard. There's so many. I think Metronomes has been one of the kind of standout kind of projects for me, because I guess it was one that we didn't know how it was going to go. It was a bit of a gamble, sort of asking local singer-songwriters, bands to put forward their songs that then we would interpret into a piece of drama. It sounds mad now, I'm saying that, but it's like, why did they ever trust us? But that, and then the fact that we could use every member of staff and everybody's kind of strengths and get people together to either be musicians or singers or actors or creating films for it. Having projects like that you can kind of find a role for lots of people regardless of their interest in performing. I think I really like that, and I think that was good. And then being able to adapt it the second time to do the one at the Catalyst as well, working in partnership with different people, that's great. But I often just kind of like it when, I don't know, when you see somebody do something, you go, especially when you know that you've seen them when the day they had the idea and they weren't sure about it, and then when you see it through to suddenly running gigs or running, a lot of people have done sort of charity things and what have you, and being able to support them on that. Like the comedy night is really good, being able to have that for Jed and Keith, for them to have come up with the idea and then see them run it, and then it's their thing, and that's great. And I really enjoy watching, the staff develop as well, and you lot come up with ideas and then run it yourselves and what have you. So it's I think Metronomes is one of the highlights, but there's so much really over 8 years. I think we've crammed quite a lot in, haven't we?
Definitely, yeah. I think I completely agree with you with Metronomes, because Metronomes was one of those times where I had to stand back and go, oh my god, this is grew from, as you say, from nothing. Like I remember us just meeting up on the first day saying, this is what we're thinking, let's just do it. And the day of it actually happening, I was like, oh my, this is such a big thing to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Most people that we've had on said how much Metronomes means to them, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Funny, isn't it? So we will have to do it again. We obviously we've put things like that on pause. We should have had one this year. I think it should have been about May, something like that. We should have started it, but I did consider doing it on Zoom or whatever, and I just thought, you know what, that isn't the point of Metronomes. The point of it is to have all those art forms come together,
exactly,
and support each other. So I think maybe it'll be autumn, winter, maybe it'll be next year, but I think it'll be something that we revisit
probably so,
time. Yeah.
But it is like we say, where it's not worth doing if we can't all be together and actually do it, because that's the main element of it, I think.
that's it. And I think, you know, we've created enough new things, or indeed visiting old things like this, the podcast and the radio show and stuff like that, which is, you know, credit to you two for doing it and for bringing the radio back as well, James. You know, that we've found ways to be creative and do those things in a medium that fits, you know, in a way that fits the restrictions that we've got. So, you know, I'm happy with that, but it'd be nice to kind of, you know, get Metronomes up and running again. Another thing that I'm quite, you know, is a great outcome is the way that we've had people like Josh and yourself on placements and then turned into real jobs, and you've, you know, stayed with us. So I think that's one of the greatest kind of achievements for us. I think is being able to see, you know, young people come up in different guises, from whether rehearsing in a band or solo, to then suddenly having a placement and then ending up working for us. You know, I think that's great. I think that's really good. That's been a great thing.
So how has the studio grew and evolved in the last 10 years?
Well, I mean, it has to respond to what the community needs are at the time, but it also has to respond to what the funders' requirements are. You know, we are a charity. We are, or Loosie's a charity that runs the studio. And, you know, that kind of sector has to kind of look at where the funding is and what the needs of the community that the funders are trying to help, you know, and kind of come together with that without sort of changing who we are. So sort of sticking with the removing barriers to the arts and kind of creating opportunities for people to engage in the arts and culture, that'll never change. But we've had to sort of bend around that, and you know, we went from having a 5-year funded project to having no funding, or no solid kind of funding for about 3 years. Because I came in 2 years into that. So, you know, that middle bit was kind of, that was a bit tricky, because we had about 5 projects.
Yeah.
It was, and we were doing unemployment course and then you know, all sorts of different things that we kind of, that was plate spinning, and they were for short periods of time, and all different requirements in terms of what we had to feed back on. And then, you know, we're having the reaching communities, which I think has been, you know, the reason why we've been able to survive lockdown and COVID-19 is because of the reaching communities, National Lottery community funded project money. If we hadn't had that, you know, it might have been a different story, but because we're in the middle of 3 years of that, we were able to have their support to continue and to put stuff online. And that you know, it shows that organisations like ourselves, you need at least 3 years. You know, it's really tricky to run shorter projects and have any kind of lasting outcomes and make impact on a community, because no sooner has someone found out about it as it's over. You know, the money's gone, the sessions are over. And especially in Halton, you know, it takes a while to get things going. We're not a city, we're not a hit the ground running kind of place. And there's nothing wrong with that. We are who we are. And it just, you know, we just need a bit of time sometimes to get a project off the ground. Luckily, Reaching Communities has enabled us to do that. And by the time lockdown hit, we were kind of in a good position, and we had lots of support from the community. And you know,
one like good thing people keep saying about the studio is since lockdown we just like clicked and instantly was available online and everything. And I said this the other day to you, is where I couldn't imagine right now was going back to not being at least partly online, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's it. I think, you know, we've got such a good team, as well as the staff. We've got the freelancers that were all behind that as well, you know. And anybody, I mean, a couple of things couldn't happen just because of the choice of the tutor or the setup at home or whatever, but more or less everybody was, everybody, whether they took part or not, was behind us doing that. And it just felt like, you know, for me, the horror of us disappearing and not being in people's lives on a weekly basis just seemed not right. So, you know, it was good that everybody sort of said, yeah, let's try and do it as soon as, and let's switch to creating videos. And, you know, we knew what the sessions were that we were creating, and so it wasn't apart from obviously the tutors having to change and us having to change how we shared that information, the ethos behind the sessions is the same. You know, it's about participation, it's about reaching people, and giving a quality product at the same time. You know, things on a few levels really. But yeah, you know, we went online from the 21st of March, I think it was, and that's just before. What was the official date of lockdown? It's something like the 22nd or something, isn't it?
So yeah,
We're ahead of the game. Yeah, so I think we you know, we're in the middle now of kind of finding people's feedback, and we've got a survey out and stuff to find out how people want us to move forward. And I think reading some of the stuff that's come back so far, it's keeping some of it online, you know, keeping some of it in on a one-to-one or a small group kind of online basis. And I think there's definitely something in that. We actually surprised at how we weren't doing it before. Why haven't we never done this before?
Because as we always say, like there's people who we talk to on a weekly basis who might not be able to come into the studio on a weekly basis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, as long as we're reaching people, that's the message, isn't it? That we want people to be together in whatever way possible. You know, we'll always believe that people coming together is great, and then they can go home and be on their own or whatever and have that and enjoy that time as well. I'm not saying it's better, but we need both things in our lives. You know, we need time to be on our own and reflect, and we also need time to be with others and kind of, you know, just empathize with others and, you know, engage in chat and all that kind of thing, everything that comes from being with people, humans. So, you know, as long as we kind of have that at the heart of what we're doing, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't really matter whether it's online or whether it's in person, you know, as long as we're sort of fulfilling the needs of the people around us and the community that we're trying to serve.
Where can people find you online?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, obviously I do the old social medias and all that. Put daft pictures of my garden up on Instagram. Not much else. Yeah, so it's on Instagram I'm lou.ise Nulty. Or is it McNorton? I think it's McNorton. McNorton's my acting name, you know. Just I only changed it because people used to say naughty, nerdy, naughty, nerdy. I'm so frustrated with it. So I changed it. But my family name was originally Mac, so you know, McNorton. I'm not fake. I did really struggle with it for years. You're like, I can't possibly have something that's not real. Just do it, Louise.
Do you think there's a level? I'm asking a question here.
That's all right.
But do you think there's a level? Because I always wonder this. Do you think there's a level of like you can detach from the actor version of you than the you version of you, if that makes sense, by giving it a different name?
No, I mean, I suppose work-wise, it helps work-wise in a way because I've got 2 emails and I just go boom, boom, and I'd like to think that I'm not a different person. I don't know. Other people might say, oh yeah, you're the right one when you turn into the actor. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, who am I trying to kid? It helps to split the work, let's put it that way. You know, just to kind of go, yeah, that's that and that's that. And it's been interesting actually because some of the stuff we've done over lockdown, I've been using perhaps more of that side of me, like when we've been reading out poems or stories or doing my daft character that I did for Maureen Common. You know, it's bringing more of that sort of thing to it. And then I've been thinking like, oh, people, we won't know who I am. I've got one name for this and one name for that. Oh, I just think, oh, it's not that different, is it? You know, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, so on online, I think it's Twitter's Louise Nulty, but it comes up as Louise McNulty as well. It's all very complicated, but if you put in those 2 things, Louise Nulty or Louise McNulty, you'll find me. I have got a YouTube pages, channel, whatever you call it as well, but I think I've got like 2 videos on it. My show reel, my acting show reel, which you can also find on Twitter. Anyway, but yeah, no, I've got my agent. I'll be on their page, which is Icon Actors in Manchester. So I'm about a bit. Google me.
Awesome. Thank you for doing this. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. I've made it to the podcast. Yeah.
I'm surprised I had one earlier. I had you on earlier, to be fair.
To be honest with you, I've been kind of waiting because have you noticed what number this one is?
Yeah.
It's 40. Yeah. And then I'm doing Jackie for 50. So like I'm kind of doing big ones for.
Celebrating the decades.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, thank you.
Cool.
I've enjoyed it. It's been great to talk to you. And well done for doing it. So thank you.
Friday.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye bye.